What's going on YouTube? It's the boy Super Saiyan God Chris. We got the Dragon Ball Z timeline we never saw by Saiyan Scholar. Let's get straight to the video.
Throughout the years, Gohan had been on the run from the androids and struggled to face them both. In the manga events, he clearly wasn't able to take on one android, even after the 1 year of training in preparation. What if Gohan had stumbled upon Dr. Gero's hidden lab in the mountains thanks to the help of Bulma? What if Android 16 was actually created and was asleep in his pod this whole time, where 17 and 18 didn't notice or destroy Android 16 at the time they blew up the lab before they left to wreak havoc on the world? Instead, 16's pod was downstairs with the supercomputer along with Cell, safe from android destruction and influence. Gohan hunting for the lab with Bulma is reasonable and the foundation of this altered timeline. The reason Gohan searches for the lab is because they are looking for weaknesses to androids 17 and 18, as Gohan cannot handle them in combat. For years, Gohan and Bulma had been at the forefront of trying to stop the androids. Trunks was too young for most of this time, and the only time I think it would work that they search for the lab is before the History of Trunks special, as during that special, Gohan encounters a few permanent roadblocks.
Now let's be honest here. If Goku and Vegeta didn't have that pride, and they was like, yeah, let's use the Dragon Balls to find Dr. Gero lab, then, all of this will never happen. The only thing is, Goku probably would have still died with the heart virus, which, can't do nothing about it. Unless it's a different villain that's probably worse than the androids, came to Earth, did what they did with the Trunks timeline, but this time, Vegeta trained Gohan and Trunks, but even though they still died, Bulma used the time machine to tell Gohan and Trunks, oh, go back in time, give this to Goku, all that stuff, and then boom, a new timeline. Well, no, because
So sometime before the special, Gohan and Bulma managed to find the remains of Dr. Gero's lab after years of searching. They could only do small trips here and there due to the android threat being out there, and they didn't want to get caught. They find the lab, almost completely ruined, but they find an entrance to where the supercomputer is located underneath. They also find some blueprints for androids 17 and 18's weakness, and also baby Cell, who has not left the lab yet. But also there is a sleeping android 16. The blueprints would be taken, and Bulma would inspect the biological android Cell, realizing that it's been created using a number of strong fighters, including Goku and Vegeta's. Although Cell was very small, it still released a very small energy, enough for Gohan to feel when he was close up, and he confirmed that something didn't feel right with this, like it was meant for a great evil. Even Frieza's tyrant presence was felt, plus being attached to Dr. Gero's supercomputer didn't give off good vibes. Ultimately, Gohan would destroy it and the computer, but then they see 16. It would be highly likely Gohan would destroy another android while it's asleep, awakened as he would think.
Go back a little bit.
Good vibes. Ultimately, Gohan would destroy it and the computer, but then they see 16. It would be highly likely Gohan would destroy another android while it's asleep, preventing him from being awakened as he would think it would raise the threat level if another android was out there. There is only one way Android 16 could be spared in this situation, because 9 times out of 10 I feel like 16 would die here and there. Future Gohan wouldn't risk anything. But the only chance is if Bulma suggests keeping this android around to learn more about Gero's creations, as a potential shutdown switch for Android 17 and 18 is not confirmed to work yet, so they would need all the help and knowledge they could get from what appears to be a completed android. This time around, Bulma even suggests finding a way to make this into a good android to help them in their fight. There were options with this android, and like with Cell, that seemed far too mysterious to take any risks with. So with Gohan and Bulma accepting that they've already lost a lot in the world and are backed into a corner, they decide to spare 16 in his sleeping pod for research purposes in hoping this would be the game changer. Gohan carries the pod to Bulma's ship and they fly 16.
Or you, hold on, because I was gonna say reprogram 16 to make it fight the androids, because I'm pretty sure 16 is stronger than 17 and 18. I'm just saying.
To another safe workshop away from Capsule Corporation so that if he does wake up, he wouldn't nuke the main hideout. Overestimating his skills and knowledge and understanding someone as wacky as Dr. Gero and his creations, Bulma would accidentally awaken Android 16. He would rise up, but not be hostile. Instead, he instantly explains his mission objective of being programmed to kill Goku. Bulma, in shock, would spurt out that Goku is already dead, and 16 would then start walking around to confirm it himself. As a machine, he must eliminate the possibility of him still being alive and hiding, so would conduct a search to places Goku would be at. On 16's travels, he wouldn't be able to detect 17 and 18, but he would start noticing the destruction around the planet, as well as finding the remaining life on Earth interesting. Similar to the android 16 we all know, he would like the birds and the squirrels. 16 even confronts Gohan on his travels. The shutdown device would not yet be ready, so Gohan could only pray that he survive this encounter. But although Gohan was tall, muscular, and looked like Goku somewhat, Android 16 would establish that that is not Goku through analyzing Gohan using his advanced scanning system. From the sound of Gohan's voice to any slight differences in anatomy, 16 knew it was not Goku. In time, 16 would eventually come to the conclusion that Goku is in fact dead, whilst also learning about the heart virus that affected some of the planet. Some time would pass, and the timeline would now be around the time when the History of Trunks special took place. 16 would continue to wander the planet without any mission. He flies out into the wilderness to study nature further, and eventually becomes the Android 16 that loves life, similar to what he became in the short time in the main story. However, one thing still crossed his circuit brain: who was responsible for most of the destruction of the world? This would eventually lead him to androids 17 and 18, and on one day he would be near a city under attack, so would fly there to establish the situation. Android 16 would confront 17 and 18 and not appreciate their behavior. Even after trading backstories or being aware of each other, 16 would not wish to join them due to their destructive ways against life. This would displease 17 and 18, where Android 16 would be forced to defend himself and hell flash both of them into the next dimension, perhaps with even less effort. An easy victory for Android 16. I could make him weaker in this story, it's a possibility, but the result would still be the same. But just like that, the android threat is over. Even if 16 found 17 and 18 before he became accustomed to the precious life on Earth, 16 would still develop this love for life, and it would conflict with 17 and 18's interests over time, leading to the same result again. He had no interest or purpose in destroying anything except Goku, and would only fight that which was a threat to himself, or now a threat to that which he begins to cherish: life. Months would go by. Gohan, Trunks, and Bulma realized that there have been no more android attacks and would start getting concerned about the locations of 17 and 18. In a world with limited communication, they finally get word from afar that an android attack happened a while ago and that there are some remaining body parts in a crater after an explosion went off. Some civilians hiding for their life had saw what happened, but Gohan would be inclined to travel there to confirm what happened. Gohan sees the remains of the two androids and confirms it's the same ones he'd been battling for years. They were destroyed. The android threat was actually over, just like that. And Gohan can't help but think that Android 16 had been a part in this. However, Android 16 wouldn't be so easy to find. He would remain in a tranquil environment outside of the cities with the birds and the squirrels. Cannot be sensed. Gohan was still on edge that this other android was out there somewhere, that he could wreak havoc at any point. Of course, Gohan would still be on edge. He's lived most of his life in fear. Bulma had just completed the android shutdown device, so Gohan was torn about what to do: to just leave the android or use the device. However, he searched for Android 16 but could not find him. More months went by, no attacks on Earth. Years went by, no attacks on Earth. The timeline would now be at the point where Trunks originally traveled to the past to beat Frieza. But now the rebuilding had begun. The world was beginning to fill with positive light once again. Bulma had no reason to pursue the Time Machine project, as hope now existed. And because they had far more time together, he eventually helped Trunks become a Super Saiyan without needing to die to become a Trigger like in the anime. Of course, in the manga, Trunks already had Super Saiyan. Either way, Trunks gets stronger. They didn't always train intensely or with major urgency, but just to be prepared for any threats down the line, such as a possible Android 16 attack. As a rough...
I'm gonna be honest, I'm thinking about like trying to read the manga for like Dragon Ball, Dragon Ball Z, Dragon Ball Super, or whatever. I look want to start with. I mean, obviously start with Dragon Ball, but I'm thinking about doing the Trunks timeline first because I actually never seen the manga. I mean, like what, like post or whatever, but like page to page, I actually never did. So comment down below if you want me to read some manga. Shoot, probably an hour long manga with for the Granola arc or whatever.
guideline, I estimate their strength by this point would be similar to Super Saiyan Vegeta during the battle with Android 19, making them stronger than their History of Trunks versions. As time went by, Android 16 would be able to sense Gohan and Trunks from afar, but knew they weren't threats to the planet. He was grateful that it was because of Gohan and Bulma that he was able to have the chance to experience the beauty of nature in the first place. More months go by and Gohan would routinely conduct searches over the continents as he was still torn about what to do with the shutdown device. There was still a part of him that wanted to eliminate the android threat once and for all.
Hey, look, I'm gonna be honest. I understand Gohan, but me personally, it's a little hot. Me personally, if months go by without no destruction, hey, Android 16, you okay in my book. That's just me. But then again, I understand Gohan because like bro dealt with the you know what I'm saying, the androids for how long, and then a new one appeared, but apparently he's not evil, and he took out the other two androids, but like still gotta be aware. But if a week, a month, a year go by, no destruction at all, he just chilling. Okay, there's no need to to shut him down, because one, he after Goku and he's dead. How will Goku be back if we can't even use the Dragon Balls to get him back? You know what I'm saying? So yeah, as long as there's no type of Goku anywhere, then Android 16 is straight.
To put the Red Ribbon nightmare behind him forever. The pain and loss over the years could never be forgotten. But there was also the reason that 16 hadn't done anything bad. Gohan would eventually find Android 16, after a lot of time looking, sitting there amongst the animals on a hill, peacefully. Gohan knew he had to get within 10 meters for the shutdown device to work, and he attempted to do so. But 16 had already detected him from miles away. As Gohan got closer, 16 would startle Gohan by saying, "So you finally come to end the last of Dr. Giro's creations with that device in your right hand? After all, it is because of my kind that suffering was brought upon this world. It is only the right thing to do by ending my existence. Also, Gohan, before you press that button, promise me that you will save the birds if something threatens this planet. Life is precious and must be protected." This realization of who Android 16 really had become had been the deciding factor in Gohan destroying the shutdown device. Gohan may have been scarred for life by the androids, but there was still a big part of him that was just like his father. And if Android 16 hadn't done anything wrong, Goku would give him a chance. Gohan would sit next to Android 16 and they would talk. And as time went on, Android 16 would become a friend to the Z Fighters and to Earth. Well, what little Z Fighters there remained left.
Yeah, they all died. R.I.P. R.I.P. my dog. The Aura.
More years would pass, and 16 would eventually spend more time at Capsule Corporation and live there. The days of Babidi and Dabura would approach, and the Supreme Kai would warn Gohan and Trunks of the incoming danger that will lead to the hatching of Majin Buu. At this time after the years, I believe future Gohan and future Trunks would be around the same power as Vegeta and Trunks after their first hyperbolic time chamber training. Future Gohan would not have the broken potential of present timeline Gohan, which is why he doesn't have the busted power from training. Trunks isn't training super intensely during this, so around the level of post-time chamber Super Saiyan 1 Trunks Vegeta is fine for both. There's still a chance they could have the Ascended forms in their back pocket at this point as a backup. But either way, Supreme Kai would offer to take Gohan and Trunks under his wing, and they could both share the Z-Sword training experience. After this training, I believe Gohan and Trunks could be around the level of Goku and Gohan after their time chamber training. So a decent power boost, but nothing too crazy. But when they encountered Dabura, who is stated to be the level of Cell, if not better, both would eventually struggle against the overwhelming power of Dabura, the Demon King, to the point he could easily turn them both to stone. They would both be heavily on
So question, which I'm probably right, just to be sure. Doesn't this mean that Beerus is no longer alive too? Like, I'm pretty sure Beerus is dead. He disappeared in Trunks' timeline. So yeah, R.I.P. my dog Beerus, man. All he wanted is some pudding.
Defense for this battle. Dabura is the greatest threat seen this far, and to prevent a further threat in Majin Buu.
Wait, don't tell me he gonna kill 16 and then both Trunks and Gohan turn Super Saiyan 2.
Android 16 would intervene from the shadows and intend to use his bomb, which was designed to kill even the likes of Cell. It was never removed when Bulma first scanned him, because 16 woke up before they could do anything. And now 16 is able to grab Dabura from behind because 16's presence cannot be detected. Android 16 would explode. The explosion would obliterate the Demon King, with Gohan and Trunks returning from stone if Dabura did hit them with that. The explosion wouldn't hit Gohan and Trunks because the Supreme Kai would be able to take the statues to safety. Android 16's sacrifice to kill Dabura would have had a positive outcome. Supreme Kai would have been more than capable of dealing with Babidi, who likely used his barrier to protect himself from the explosion last minute. If not Supreme Kai, then the restored Gohan and Trunks would finish the job. The future timeline would be saved entirely, thanks to Android 16. However, I don't think 16's death would fully trigger Gohan to become a Super Saiyan 2 in this scenario, because it was an entirely different motive and plot than in the present timeline. There's a chance it could, and that would be poetry,
I didn't hear
in this
him
instance,
Gohan
I think Gohan would see Android 16's death as initially sad, but also entirely different motive and plot than in the present timeline. There's a chance it could, and that would be poetry, but in this instance, I think Gohan would see Android 16's death as initially sad, but also grateful for him saving the world. Plus, Gohan may have been a garden statue, so couldn't really get triggered from the explosion. However, I do think it would be fitting if Gohan wasn't turned to stone, so Android 16 could say a few words to him before his sacrifice. Perhaps that triggers an opening in Gohan's potential, something he never truly had in the future timeline. But then you may ask about Goku Black. How can Gohan and Trunks deal with a superior Goku Black? Well, the truth is, there would be no Goku Black. There would be no additional timelines created through Trunks or Cell. There would be no timelines or time rings created, apart from that one that Universe 12 created with that time machine mystery. But there would be no Goku in this timeline for Zamasu to get angry at. There would probably be no Zamasu corruption. In fact, this Zamasu may even turn out to be a great Supreme Kai. And if he did go psycho, it wouldn't be in Goku's body. And if, in some very unlikely situation, he takes Gohan or Trunks' body, then the other Saiyan would be strong enough to take him on and win with better battle experience, due to the fact Gohan and Trunks would be roughly the same power and could handle each other. But again, I'm sure this would never happen in the first place.
Yeah,
and there would be no Zeno button either, which is great. But the only thing putting this timeline in danger is the Mortal Rankings, as the original Tournament of Power gave universes a fighting chance to save their universe from being erased, which was eventually going to happen due to the Rankings. Now, Gohan and Trunks wouldn't have any idea of it, unless of course Whis received word and told Beerus, who is still sleeping, then he can conveniently get the Omni King to agree to a Tournament of Power. Let's be honest, right now, Universe 7 aren't winning. But if Beerus wasn't aware, then how long would the erasure from the poor Mortal Rankings take? A decade? A century, millennia? We don't know exactly when the future timeline would have got wiped out as a decision from the Mortal Rankings, but it probably would at some point, unless the Omni King forgets. But here I'll stop calling it the future timeline, because in this story it would be the main timeline and the only one, and it would have a very happy ending for as long as the Grand Priest and Omni King don't decide to erase it. Hey, even future Bulma lives, because there's no Goku Black, and this is all thanks to Android 16. Or at least future Gohan and Bulma for finding him in the first place. Or myself for making up this what if. So I really hope you enjoyed this story.
Definitely Scene Scholar. But I'm gonna be honest, I'm pretty sure Beerus could have still been disappeared because the Z store was broken and stone, so I'm pretty sure the Supreme Kai would have died. So technically I'm pretty sure the universe would have been erased. So I could be wrong. You can comment down below if I could be wrong about it. But yeah, at the end of this video, hope you guys like it. Like, subscribe to the channel more. I'm trying to post some more anime videos other than Dragon Ball. I'm still post some more Dragon Ball, but you know, I'm trying to post some more like Naruto or some rom-com anime or whatever. Yeah, hope you guys like the video. Like, comment, subscribe to the channel. I'm out.